Hi, everyone. My name is Jessie Fairbanks. I'm a features programmer with Doc NYC, and I'm so happy to welcome the director, Anabel Rodríguez Ríos, to talk about her new debut feature film, Once Upon a Time in Venezuela. Everyone, please welcome Anabel. Thank you so much for joining us and for sharing Once Upon a Time in Venezuela with our audience at Doc NYC. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for inviting me. We are super excited about being here.
And I'm so sorry. I think I missed. It's Anabel Rodriguez Rios. I'm so sorry about that.
That is the
Yeah, I did not have good enough. Your film is it's so beautiful, and parts of it are dreamlike and ephemeral, but so much of it is incredibly timely. We will be watching this in November when our election has just happened, and a lot of this is about the fragility of democracy as well as community when they are faced with an environmental disaster. And hold on to your culture and your heritage in the face of all of this. Off to you for weaving in so many universal and complicated themes into what is such a deeply personal and really enjoyable film to watch. I heard that you were at the floating village of Congo Mirador for a while prior to making this film, and that the project actually started with the children of the village. Is that true?
Yeah, that's quite right. I went there for the first time since years ago, and I recorded other stuff. In 2008 was that, and already I had this in my baggage, no, from my background and my experience back there. And in year 2012, there was the opportunity to participate in the Why Poverty series. I don't know if you have heard of it. This is this amazing series developed by the foundation Why. It's Danish. And in that moment, we showed a short that was called The Barrer. This you can see in our website, once upon a time in Venezuela.com. Now it's for free there. And got centered in a family of kids. And then as a natural process, when we were thinking, okay, we could shoot something longer, because the village is transforming into a swamp, and then the people was actually asking for us to keep on recording, and saw us as the possibility of bringing this out into the light, into the public. So then in that opportunity we thought, well, we can follow these kids. They are fishing kids, and then they were in gangs, yeah, and we were working back then with the ones of the gang of the north. I mean, this is a tiny village, but still there are like these pugnacities between little gangs, and these all these kids were like just to come into the teenager time. So then we thought in that moment in making a coming of age story, yeah. And then from that perspective, to see the how this community was, and all the phenomenon that probably that the people have seen already in the film, no, the polarization and so on. But very early in those years, the whole process was 5 years, and very early on that.
Annabelle, I'm so sorry. I'm gonna stop you. I think your microphone is hit by your.
Ah,
Is
yeah.
your on there? Yeah, it there's a little bit of feedback when you move.
Okay. Oh, I
So if
see.
you, yeah. So we'll just cut this bit out. So if you
Okay.
want to start with, you were saying the gangs. If you want to talk about the gangs and then about, but when you went back,
Yeah. Oh,
are you
yeah.
happy to pick up there? Okay.
No problems. Let me think. Okay, so then back in the whole process of the film shoot was 5 years, and back then in the year number one, we were centered in a group of brothers and sisters that they constitute one gang of this village, and this is a tiny village, but even though they have two gangs, and they were confronted with the ones of the south. So, and back then my dream was to make a coming of age story, and from that perspective to narrate this community and all this phenomenon that you have seen, the polarization and so on, but from that perspective. But very early when we came back, this family was not there no more. They had moved. So then we were left without a movie. And back then there was the first decision that we had to make in terms of concept, if the film was about the family or if the film was about the village. So then in that moment we decided, no matter what, we stay here because the village is the character. And that's how it really was born. The film itself, and then we developed these other narrative lines that you had seen already.
Thank you for sharing that. And I think that leads me into just a quick question that I'm sure that is top of mind for many of the audience members who've just watched the film. And that is, the film looks at the public health costs that's borne by those who live in an extractive economy. How is the Congo Mirador village? Are there still people there? Is any of it still above water? Just can you give us a general update on the village?
Yeah, there are three families left. These are the latest news I've heard. I'm in contact with, well, with the teacher and with the people that I work with in the production. And rather than a lagoon, there is one canal, just one canal through which is possible for one of these fishing boats to come in. And of course, I mean, there is no sewage, there is no, so then the conditions are really from the sanitary perspective, they are really not livable. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
thank
yeah.
you for sharing. I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
The, you know, and maybe you can answer this as part of this question, because I think we're also very curious about how Natalie is doing and Miss Tamara. You have so many members of the community that are featured in this film, but Natalie and Miss Tamara are kind of the two poles that anchor us as we learn about the village, about the obstacles they face, and about their election cycle and the nuances of that. Um, can you tell us first how Natalie and Miss Tamara are and what they thought of the film when they saw it?
Mm-hmm. Well, Natalie, she went to Colombia first, and then she came back. And in the Corona time, she's like in the side of Venezuela. Many people had done that. That this migration to Colombia is a little bit like that. It's like oscillating, yeah. And overall, in these Corona times, as things got really tough in Colombia in terms of work, because most of the people cannot work and they live on the day to day. So then they came back to Venezuela, and now there was a little open for people to go back if they wanted to Colombia, because things are really tough as well in Venezuela. So then they are like trapped in between wars and even worse. So Natalie in this moment, and her daughter Natalia, they are in Venezuela, and yeah, going through very uncertain times. She is very much looking forward for the film to be shown in. We're gonna show it in the region. And the way in which I'm planning to do is to bring the people, like most of the people of Congo, they go to a main city called Maracaibo. So then my plan is to show it there, and Natalie is 12 hours away from there, but I want to bring her there to see it in the big screen. She sees in the film like a way of reivindication, honestly, and this is a bit. And Tamara actually did like it. She saw the final cut of the film, and a little bit before as well, to have opinions and so on. And surprisingly, she likes it because I mean, it's difficult for her, and actually, members of of the party in the local in the region, they had been like insulting and so on because they have seen some stuff in the Facebook, yeah, and so then let's see what is going to be the reaction towards Tamara. This is actually something worrying, no, that she receives some bullying or something. Hopefully, it's not going to happen, but this is possible. And the plan is to show the film in December. In Venezuela, there's going to be elections in December as well. And then I hope that we are going to be able to show the film without problems. Let's see what happens.
Well, I wish you the best of luck with that. And
Mm.
it's such a beautiful film about, the heart and the soul and the people of Venezuela that is so rarely shared on global media. And it was a window into their experience and their lives. I want to switch gears a little bit and ask you about the filmmaking process. This is a floating village surrounded by water, and you seem to be everywhere in the film. The camera is constantly floating by houses or within the homes of Natalie or the school with Natalie and within the home of Miss Tamara. How did you film? Where did you stay? How did you go about making a film that requires equipment in a place that is completely surrounded by water?
Mhm. Well, we were with light equipment for that. That's first of all. We were with light equipment and with the camera crew, with like in the place shooting, there were maximum 4 people. Yeah, plus people doing production, but that were not necessarily in the moment of the shooting. And to achieve this, to feel natural, it took a long time just to simply be there, and conversations but see, this just simply be there was very important. So then that we could really understand through the body how to uh, how to relax. I would say that's the first thing. And then it is like a flow, no, the actually the look and the act of shooting as well affects what people are doing, but still we were mainly in the service of what was happening in front of us. And for equipment as such, we were with a Nikon camera and a GH4 Panasonic, and they can, they are like you don't even use gripper. We were not using grips or something like that. Nothing that was so spectacular or so like, very, very low profile, visually as well. And this thing of the floating, well, it comes from the dynamics themselves, because to transport from one place to the other, one is on these boats. And as well, there is one way of moving the floors. For instance, they are wooden floors, and and the way in which people, you can see it as well in the way in which people are physically, that we become a bit like amphibious. You know what I mean? And actually, part of it, we were not having we were not swimming immediately there where the village is, because it's really polluted. But there is another lagoon nearby where we would go to swim and to wash ourselves. And then, so then this was part of the routine, to be in water and to be in the houses. And it was a life-changing experience, I have to say. This process of becoming somebody else, and this happened to me, to the cameraman John, and it really changed our way of being.
It's very evident that you are there, that you were there with them and experiencing their life as they live it, and their reliance upon, their surroundings, and also this just unique ecosystem. Because just the way that we get to experience the film with you. So thank you so much for sharing that
Mm.
kind of behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Um, I really love the visual style of the film as well. You know, the camera, you were talking about how light you were and how nimble you were, you know, but you stay very close to the subjects, and there's just these moments of intensity. You know, Natalie faces so much criticism
Mhm.
over her style and her approach to the school, both from the government and from the community. Um, and then you have Miss Tamara, who's dealing with the politicians who use the village for their votes and who buy their votes and who think of them in that moment, but then perhaps won't think of them again until the next election cycle. And Miss Tamara is navigating those worlds of trying to help her community, serving herself, and then also making sure that the party remembers how important the village is.
Mhm, mhm,
But then you have these quiet moments where Natalie is washing her hair, or Miss Tamara is watering her plants, and it just allows the film to flow, almost like the water surrounding the village. So all of that to say, can you talk about how you found that balance between, you know, when to film, when not to film, when to stay with the subjects when they were in moments of intensity, and when to kind of edit in moments of levity and just kind of everyday acts?
mhm. Well, there was in the first, for sure, the first years, or the first year at least, the material was not so in its point. You know what I mean? There was a different perspective, a different like a connection that was a little bit further. The camera was probably not in the place where it had to be, you know. I mean, it was a learning process, and actually I did it on my own with a person that is a local person that he became during the process a filmmaker himself, and we did a team that I think we're gonna hold together in telling these stories about Venezuela. So then he began with me, and he's from there, and I allowed myself to be with a camera and him, and to have this process. And then I understood more how I wanted to be there. And remember, also, I had never done. I had an ideal on how to do this, like cinema verite. I remember admiring so much. For instance, I admire the American storytellers. For instance, a Weisman, that is the classic, or there is this film called The Interrupters, that is a film in Chicago. I remember those stories as well. There is a Czech filmmaker, Elena Terestikova, that has another style, but all of them were ideas to me. And I was like so far, and it took me a time to feel like, okay, this is it. And then I called the camera person, this John Marquez, who has the capacity of, you know, of framing the people in a way that you could, in my words, it was like epic, because he has this characteristic of making in the image a person epic, you know, within the landscape. And I wanted the film to grow, so then I invited him. But then there was a process of, you know, of telling, for instance, typical of camera people, at least in Venezuela, is that he would have the frame, you know, he was like, okay, I'm ready, then now tell him to tell her to walk, and it's like, no, 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 my friend, I mean, this is not like this. I mean, let's talk. You know, let's talk, and let's, you know, follow what is happening. So then this understanding of basically being there, and then when you understand, okay, now something is beginning to happen, and then let's begin to shoot, and then to keep on shooting until this thing finishes this situation, and that you moved in a way that you're still connected with the person, you're looking at the person, not only the viewer all the time or something, but being in a way that you're present, and at the same time you are looking. And this, with the repetitions at the end, at the end of the 5 years, we had, I had the summary of sequences that I did were like between 65, 70 sequences that would make like a whole sense. So, and it was really like a construction of that. But for getting the 70 sequences, we shot lots of things that were not like in the point, you see, and lots of reflecting on how to do that, how to achieve those ideas that are the references. So yeah, that was really
It's beautifully done, Annabelle. It's such a beautiful observation of Congo Mirador as a microcosm for what's happening in Venezuela. Thank you so much for sharing it with the audience. Unfortunately, that is all that we have time to. Please put your hands together on your couch for Anabel Rodriguez Rios. And thank you so much again for being here, and congratulations on Once Upon a Time in Venezuela.
Thank you. And wow, we are I'm so happy to be there among so amazing films. And yeah, next we wish to be there, and next time we hope to be there for real in presence.
And until then, we have your beautiful film.
Thank you.
Thank you.